Jinn, Arabic, al-Jinn, also romanized as jinn or anglicized as genies, with the more broad meaning of demons, are supernatural creatures in early Arabian and later Islamic mythology and theology. An individual member of the jinn is known as a jinni, jinni, or genie, al-Jinni. They are mentioned frequently in the Quran. The 72nd surah is titled Sūrat al-Jinn, and other Islamic texts. The Quran says that the jinn were created from a smokeless and scorching fire, but are also physical in nature, being able to interact in a tactile manner with people and objects and likewise be acted upon. The jinn, humans, and angels make up the three known sapient creations of God. Like human beings, the jinn can be good, evil, or neutrally benevolent and hence have free will like humans. The shaytan jinn are akin to demons in Christian tradition, but the jinn are not fallen angels and the Quran draws a clear distinction between the two creations. An exception is Iblis, the Islamic devil, while the Quran calls in Sūrat al-Kahf, the cave, Ayah 50, Iblis one of the jinn, but mentioned him among the angels. Some scholars and especially mystics argue that he was once an angel named Azazel, but turned into a jinn. Then he was cast out of heaven. Etymology. The earliest evidence of the word can be found in Persian, for the singular jinni is the Avestic genie, a wicked, female, spirit. Genie were among various creatures believed among pre-Zoroastrian peoples of Persia. Jinn is an Arabic collective noun deriving from the Semitic root jnn, Arabic, jan, whose primary meaning is to hide. Some authors interpret the word to mean, literally, beings that are concealed from the senses. Cognates include the Arabic majnun, possessed, or generally, insane, jana, garden, and janin, embryo. Jinn is properly treated as a plural, with the singular being genie. The anglicized form genie is a borrowing of the French genie, from the Latin genius, a guardian spirit of people and places in Roman religion. It first appeared in 18th-century translations of the 1001 Nights from the French, where it had been used owing to its rough similarity in sound and sense. Pre-Islamic Arabia. Archaeological evidence found in northwestern Arabia seems to indicate the worship of jinn, or at least their tributary status. Hundreds of years before Islam, an Aramaic inscription from Beth Fasil near Palmyra pays tribute to the genie, the good and rewarding gods, and it has been argued that the term is related to the Arabic jinn. Numerous mentions of jinn in the Quran and testimony of both pre-Islamic and Islamic literature indicate that the belief in spirits was prominent in pre-Islamic Bedouin religion. However, there is evidence that the word jinn is derived from Aramaic, where it was used by Christians to designate pagan gods reduced to the status of demons, and was introduced into Arabic folklore only late in the pre-Islamic era. Julius Wellhausen has observed that such spirits were thought to inhabit desolate, dingy, and dark places and that they were feared. One had to protect oneself from them, but they were not the objects of a true cult. Islam. In Islamic theology, jinn are said to be creatures with free will, made from smokeless fire by God. Arabic. Allah, as humans were made of clay, among other things. According to the Quran, jinn have free will, and Iblis abused this freedom in front of God by refusing to bow to Adam when God ordered angels and jinn to do so. For disobeying God, Iblis was expelled from paradise and called shaytan, Satan. Jinn are frequently mentioned in the Quran. Surah 72, named Sūrat al-Jinn, is named after the jinn, and has a passage about them. Another surah, Sūrat al-Nas, mentions jinn in the last verse. The Quran also mentions that Muhammad was sent as a prophet to both humanity and the jinn, and that prophets and messengers were sent to both communities. Like humans, jinn will also be judged on the Day of Judgment and will be sent to paradise or hell according to their deeds, classifications and characteristics. The social organization of the jinn community resembles that of humans, e.g., they have kings, courts of law, weddings, and mourning rituals. One common belief in Muslim belief lists 5 distinct orders of jinn: the married, the strongest type, the ifrit, the shaytan, the ghoul, or jinn, and the jann, the weakest type. A few traditions, hadith, divide jinn into 3 classes: those who have wings and fly in the air, those who resemble snakes and dogs, and those who travel about ceaselessly. Describe them as creatures of different forms, some resembling vultures and snakes, others tall men in white garb. They may even appear as dragons, onagers, or any number of other animals. In addition to their animal forms, the jinn occasionally assume human form to mislead and destroy their human victims. Certain hadiths have also claimed that the jinn may subsist on bones, which will grow flesh again as soon as they touch them, and that their animals may live on dung, which will revert to grain or grass for the use of the jinn flocks. Ibn Taymiyyah, an influential late medieval theologian whose writings would later become the source of Wahhabism, believed the jinn to be generally ignorant, untruthful, oppressive and treacherous. He held that the jinn account for much of the magic perceived by humans, cooperating with magicians to lift items in the air unseen, delivering hidden truths to fortune-tellers, and mimicking the voices of deceased humans during seances. In Sūrat al-Rahman, verse 33, God reminds jinn as well as mankind that they would possess the ability to pass beyond the furthest reaches of space only by his authority, followed by the question, then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? In Surat al-Jinn, verses 8-10, Allah narrates concerning the jinn how they touched or sought the limits of the sky and found it full of stern guards and shooting stars, as a warning to man. It goes on further to say how the jinn used to take stations in the skies to listen to divine decrees passed down through the ranks of the angels. Surah al-Jinn verse 9. But those who attempt to listen now, during and after the revelation of the Qur'an, shall find fiery sentinels awaiting them. The Quran forbids their association with God, and advises men not to worship jinns instead of him. The Quran says, and they, pagan Arabs, imagine kinship between him and the jinn, whereas the jinn know well that they will be brought before him. Quote, Quran Surah 37, verse 158. 7 kings of the jinn are traditionally associated with days of the week. Sunday, al-Mudab, Abu Abdullah Said. Monday, Murar al-Abayad Abu al-Harith, Abu al-Nur. Tuesday, Abu Myriz, or Abu Yagub, al-Amma. Wednesday, Barkan Abu al-Adjayb. Thursday, Shamharish, al-Tayyar. Friday, Abu Hassan Zobra, al-Abayad. Saturday, Abu Nuh Maymun. Karan. A related belief is that every person is assigned one's own special genie, also called the Karan, and if the Karan is evil it could whisper to people's souls and tell them to submit to evil desires. The notion of a Karan is not universally accepted among all Muslims, but it is generally accepted that shaytan whispers in human minds, and he is assigned to each human being. In a hadith recorded by Muslim Ibn al-Hajjaj, the companion Abdullah, son of Masud reported, the Prophet Muhammad said, "There is not one of you who does not have a jinni appointed to be his constant companion." Karan. They said, "And you too, O Messenger of Allah?" He said, "Me too. But Allah has helped me and he has submitted, so that he only helps me to do good." Single quote. In Muslim cultures, the stories of the jinn can be found in various Muslim cultures around the world. In Sind, the concept of the genie was introduced during the Abbasid era and has become a common part of the local folklore, which also includes stories of both male jinn called jinn and female jinn called jinni. Folk stories of female jinn include stories such as the al-Jinni. Other acclaimed stories of the jinn can be found in the 1001 Nights story of the fisherman and the genie. More than 3 different types of jinn are described in the story of Maruf the cobbler. 2 jinn help young Aladdin in the story of Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp. As Badr al-Din weeps over the grave of his father until sleep overcomes him, and he is awoken by a large group of sympathetic jinn in the tale of Ali Nur al-Din and his son, Badr ad-Din Hasan. In some stories, jinn are credited with the ability of instantaneous travel from China to Morocco in a single instant. In others, they need to fly from one place to another, though quite fast, from Baghdad to Cairo in a few hours. During the Rwandan genocide, both Hutus and Tutsis avoided searching local Rwandan Muslim neighborhoods because they widely believed the myth that local Muslims and mosques were protected by the power of Islamic magic and the efficacious jinn. In Cyangugu, arsonists ran away instead of destroying the mosque because they believed that jinn were guarding the mosque and they feared their wrath. Solomon and the jinn. According to tradition, the jinn stood behind the learned humans in Solomon's court, who in turn sat behind the prophets. The jinn remained in the service of Solomon, who had placed them in bondage, and had ordered them to perform a number of tasks. And before Solomon were marshaled his hosts of jinn and men and birds, and they were all kept in order and ranks. Quran 27:17. The Quran relates that Solomon died while he was leaning on his staff. As he remained upright, propped on his staff, the jinn thought he was still alive and supervising them. So they continued to work. They realized the truth only when Allah sent a creature to crawl out of the ground and gnaw at Solomon's staff until his body collapsed. The Quran then comments that if they had known the unseen, they would not have stayed in the humiliating torment of being enslaved. Then, when we decreed Solomon's death, nothing showed them his death except a little worm of the earth, which kept slowly gnawing away at his staff. So when he fell down, the jinn saw plainly that if they had known the unseen, they would not have tarried in the humiliating penalty of their task. Quran 34:14. Ibn al-Nadim, in his Kitab al-Fihrist, describes a book that lists 70 jinn led by Fuqtis, including several jinn appointed over each day of the weekday Dodge, who translated al-Fihrist into English. Notes that most of these names appear in the Testament of Solomon, a collection of late 14th or early 15th century magico-medical manuscripts from Akana. Spain describes a different set of 72 jinn, termed Ta'alik, again under Fuqtis, here named Facatus or Fikitush, blaming them for various ailments. According to these manuscripts, each jinn was brought before King Solomon and ordered to divulge their corruption and residence, while the jinn king Fikitush gave Solomon a recipe for curing the ailments associated with each jinn as they confessed their transgressions. Other cultures. In the Guanche mythology. In Guanche mythology from Tenerife in the Canary Islands, there existed the belief in beings that were similar to genies, such as the Maxios or Dioses Peredros, attendant gods, domestic and nature spirits, and Tibicinas, evil genies, as well as the demon Gayota, aboriginal god of evil, that, like the Arabic Iblis, is sometimes identified with a genie. The Guanches were the Berber or Tucthones of the Canary Islands. Christian sources. Van Dyck's Arabic translation of the Old Testament uses the alternative collective plural jan, al-Jan, to render the Hebrew word usually translated into English as familiar spirit. Strong number 0178. In several places. Leviticus chapter 19, 31, 20, 6, 1 Samuel chapter 28, 379. 1 Chronicles chapter 10, 13. In popular culture, the jinn frequently occurs as a character, a plot in element in fiction. Two other classes of jinns, the ifrit and the marid, have been represented in fiction as well. Genies appear in film in various forms, such as the genie freed by Abu, the eponymous character in the 1940 film Thief of Baghdad. Gallery. See also Bibliography. Al-Ashkur. Dr. Umar Suleiman. 1998. The World of the Jinn and Devils. Boulder. Co. Al-Bashir Company for Publications and Translations. Barnhart. Robert K. The Barnhart Concise Dictionary of Etymology. 1995. Genie. The Oxford English Dictionary. 2nd edition. 1989. Abu al-Futarazi. Tafsiri Ruf al-Janan va Ru al-Janan ix 17. Pub. Sofar. Tehran. 1988. Muhammad Ayyub Abari. Tufat al-Gharaib. Ed. J. Martini. Tehran. 1971. A. Arnon S. Thompson. The Types of the Folktale. 2nd Rev. Ed. Folklore Fellows Communications 184. Helsinki. 1973. Abul Muayyad Borki. Ajaeb Aldonia. Ed. L. P. Smirnova. Moscow. 1993. A. Christensen. Essay sur la démonologie iranienne. Det. KGL. Danske Videnska Bundselskab. Historisk Philologiska Meddelelse. 1941. R. Dozy. Supplement aux Dictionnaires Arabes. 3rd ed. Leiden. 1967. H. El Shami. Folk Traditions of the Arab World. A Guide to Motif Classification. 2 vols. Bloomington. 1995. Abu Bakr Motaja Mali Yazdi. Farrokh Nama. Ed. Afshar. Tehran. 1967. Abu Jafar Muhammad Kolani. Ketab al-Kafi. Ed. A. Ghaffari. 8 vols. Tehran. 1988. Edward William Lane. An Arabic-English Lexicon. Beirut. 1968. L. Leffler. Islam in Practice. Religious Beliefs in a Persian Village. New York. 1988. U. Marzolf. Typologie des Position Volksmärchens. Beirut. 1984. Massey. Croyances. M. Mahandust. Padidaha Yiwami Diasal Janubi Khorasan. Honoro Mordum. 1976. pp. 44-51. T. Noldaki. Arabs. Ancient. Quote. In J. Hastings. ed. Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics I. Edinburgh. 1913. pp. 659-73. S. Thompson. Motif Index of Folk Literature. Rev. ed. 6 vols. Bloomington. 1955. S. Thompson and W. Roberts. Types of Interchoral Tales. Folklore Fellows Communications 180. Helsinki. 1960. Sultan Muhammad ibn Taj al-Din Hassan Esther Abadi. Tofat al-Majales. Tehran. Muhammad B. Mahmud USI. Ajaib al-Makhluqa va Garib al-Mawjudit. ed. M. Sotuda. Tehran. 1966. Further reading. Crapanzano. V. 1973. The Hamad Shah. A Study in Moroccan Ethno-Psychiatry. Berkeley. ca. University of California Press. Drjvas. H. J. W. 1976. The Religion of Palmyra. Leiden. Brill. El-Zion. Emira. 2009. Islam, Arabs, and the Intelligent World of the Jinn. Contemporary Issues in the Middle East. Syracuse. NY. Syracuse University Press. ISBN 978-0-8156-3200-9. El-Zion. Emira. 2006. Jinn. In. J. F. Merry ed. Medieval Islamic Civilization, an Encyclopedia. New York and Abingdon. Routledge. pp. 420-421. Goodman, L. E. 1978. The Case of the Animals versus Man Before the King of the Jinn. A 10th-century ecological fable of the Pure Brethren of Basra. Library of Classical Arabic Literature. Volume 3. Boston. Twain. Maruf. M. 2007. Jinnification as a Discourse of Power. A Multidisciplinary Approach to Moroccan Magical Beliefs and Practices. Leiden. Brill. Z. Binden. E. 1953. Die Jinn des Islam und der Altorientalische Geisterglaube. Bern. Haupt. Etymology of Genie.